Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm back with another lovely career mode video. It's been a short while. Last weekend when I posted the Austrian GP race video, if you guys haven't checked that out, I'd highly recommend it. You might want to click off this video now because I'm probably going to end up giving you guys some spoilers if you haven't already watched it. But in terms of a Grand Prix for ourselves, it was pretty solid, to be fair with you, pretty solid. We finished P9, got a fastest lap somehow. I was a bit shocked by that. But we were just putting in decent laps, throughout the Grand Prix. I had seemed to have this sort of like thing where I do one really decent lap and then a terrible sloppy lap. Didn't really have that consistency. We showed pace at times, but then struggled at other points in the Grand Prix. As I'm sure you can see in the order, Valtteri Bottas, last time out, his great result leaves him even further ahead at the top from Verstappen, who's also gained a bit of a lead on the other Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. Then you've got Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, another fantastic P5 round there for him. And then Sergio Perez with his third of this season. However, he certainly isn't third in the Drivers' Championship. The only Mercedes or Red Bull driver still yet to have won a race, because we've had Verstappen, Hamilton, and then twice for Valtteri Bottas. The most consistent being Bottas, who had second with the fastest lap, first, fifth, first. Pretty incredible from him. Ourselves, though, we are still sat in a very tasty position. We're down there in P6, and I certainly wasn't expecting to be anywhere like that after the first 5 rounds. To be honest with you, for me, the first 5 rounds are a bit stronger than the last 5, but hopefully we can get some decent points in the last 5. But we have got Daniel Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz 14 points behind. I can probably see them maybe catching up to us, but I think we should be comfortable from Pierre Gasly. And he's in the AlphaTauri. He gets some great results, but we should be comfortable to stay ahead of him. Lando Norris is going to have quite a bit of work to do. He's now just 7 points behind his teammate in Sainz, so some really solid results in the second half of the season, and he could jump back past his Aussie teammate. But last time out, it was just pretty much stationary for most of the race. We had a few overtakes. There was Perez's overtake on Hamilton later on for losing the position at the start. 3 wide into the first corner in the wet. Other than that, it wasn't too much of an eventful Grand Prix. Nice to drive, but wasn't that fantastic. It seems to be that we have a sort of solid top 10 at the moment in the Drivers' Championship. But then you've got Vettel on 9, Tsunoda on 8. I can see those two fighting for 11th this season. It'd be really great if we could have a continued battle between them two. And then Lance Stroll, the DNF man. He's had 2 points, 1 point finish, a non-point finish, and then 3 no finishes. He's had a disaster so far. 3 DNFs in 5 races, and then was set to have a pretty dismal result at Spain, and then it made it even more dismal when he was collected by the late incident. The rest of the drivers still yet to score, and the big story, as I'm sure you can see in the constructors, is Alpine still yet to get points on the board. They are dropping back to Alfa Romeo. They're pretty close to Alfa Romeo actually in the R&D standings. Williams have dropped down towards Haas, who are constantly just steadily going along. In terms of your constructors, Mercedes have quite a lead over Red Bull. Red Bull, some really good results for them, and by results for Mercedes, they can make the gap back up, but it is quite big at the moment. Ferrari, very decent lead on McLaren. They're 86 points to 53. They are looking very comfortable for P3 this season, hopefully some more next season. McLaren pretty much sat in P4. We're P5. I think we might be able to stay there, but it'd be tough against AlphaTauri. We'll be fighting with them. They're currently in P6, but it's sort of ourselves versus Tsunoda and Gasly, because Tsunoda does every now and then get in the points. My teammate Schwartzman hasn't yet. Granted, he did deserve some at Spain after that performance, but got collected by George Russell spinning round. So yeah, 31 points for AlphaTauri. That it's quite a bit. It's 13 points, but they could make up the gap if both of them get some really good results in, because they're looking decent in the R&D chart. And then Aston Martin looking very solid for 7th. It'd just be interesting to see if Alpine can actually get some points this season halfway through, and they haven't yet. So that's the review of the last race. Of course, we have 3 sponsors these days. Zenom, our main one, and Highland and Shark. Another thing I also want us to have a look at is the drivers, as I'm sure you can, the drivers market. As I'm sure you can see, we are watching 2 drivers, Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. Leclerc has slightly better focus. Not really a surprise so far, but, we look at the order, they're 7.5 million, along with Raikkonen, Sainz, and Alonso. So it's a bit of an interesting one there, whether we go for one of these guys. I definitely do think if we go for the market value, whereas Hamilton way out of reach, Bottas, Verstappen, Vettel, Ricciardo's quite a bit out of reach there, despite having 89 rated, the same as Charles Leclerc, who's worth just 2.5 million less. Of course, Pierre Gasly for 88 is only worth 6 million, absolute bargain there. But yeah, maybe Norris, maybe Leclerc for next season. That will be interesting, because they're both pretty high rated, decent focus. If that continues, we might be having a look at them for a teammate at the end of the season. Perez also quite a cheap one for 87, at just 6 million. In terms of the focuses, we can explain Lance Stroll's disaster at the moment. 52 focus. Not really surprised, considering he's only finished only 2 of the 5 races so far. Not great for Nicholas Latifi, 74, just been struggling behind the Hassers. Giovinazzi's improved a bit. I am watching Yuki Tsunoda just to see how he goes. Young rookie. He could actually get somewhere. Schumacher's got great focus. Tsunoda only 71. He's had some frustrating results so far this season. And then, of course, you've got your selection of F2 drivers down there. However, there is good news and bad news for me to tell you. The good news is we're at Silverstone, the British Grand Prix. I do love the British Grand Prix, my home Grand Prix. Fantastic track, great to drive, always creates some fantastic racing action. But there's a downside, and sadly, it won't be the British Grand Prix we were hoping for. Let's have a look then at all of this. The power unit, internal combustion engine, we have got 4 at the moment, and one of which 68, one of which 69. That needs replacing for the British Grand Prix. We've used 2 power units in 5 races, and we've got 5 races left, so we should be fine for the power units. We might not have to take them unless we have an engine failure, but we are going to apply a brand new component. We don't get a penalty for that because we already have it. The motor generator unit kinetic, 59% there. That could still be used for another Grand Prix, but I did stack engine penalties. That's 68. We do need a fresh one. I might as well take an all fresh one for this weekend. We're probably only going to need 2 more in this season, so might as well not use that one. We probably just can take these 2 fresh ones and send them to about 60% wear by the end of the season. Then you've got 54 and 53. Not that high on the motor generator unit heat, but we've used 2 in the first half of the season. We might as well use another one there. We can always go back to it, won't cost us a penalty. However, with the energy store, 54,042, I'm actually going to go back to that 42% wear on there. That's for your energy store. Yeah, I think we'll be fine with 42% for this weekend. 69% on the turbocharger. That needs replacing. First one reaches 62. We're going to use a fresh one there. Those aren't going to give us penalties. The problem is these 3. 65% wear. Little bit too much of a risk there. Don't want to do it and take a penalty. But that is a lot of wear. I know there aren't that many curbs. Yeah, I know there aren't. But, there isn't much we can do here. There aren't many curbs. 65% is so much of a risk. Sadly, we're going to have to take a 10-place grid penalty. That is such a shame. I was hoping we could have a great result at the British Grand Prix. It's not going to be. What a shame. But there's nothing I can do about it, really. In fact, there's no point actually fitting that one. We'll leave with the 54. That is 53. We might as well just keep... No, actually, we can go with the neon for that. But it's a shame, because I can't risk it taking 65% wear into a Grand Prix. It's too risky, you know. I don't want to have to take a penalty. But really, for us, you know, we want to finish the race. And also, that's going to put a lot of strain on anything else. You know, and then we're going to potentially need penalties, more penalties later on for different things. So sadly, it is going to be an engine penalty this weekend, because we can't take the risk and hope that we only manage to take 35% wear on it when we took 65 last time out. So sadly, it is an engine penalty for the C. That'll be 10 places down, but all hope is not lost. Qualifying will actually potentially be important. We'll have to see, but I do think a lot of teams are going to be taking engine penalties this weekend, you know? We saw a few engine penalties if we head back. We did see a few engine penalties in France. One in Austria for Stroll, who then DNF'd, probably with one of his new parts. But we probably are going to see maybe a few this weekend. And if we do, we might stand a chance. If there's drivers who have engine penalty who are behind us in qualifying and the result, then we'll still start ahead of them in the race. So quali could still be important. We'll just have to see how many do get a grid penalty. So we've had a look at that. In terms of other things to have a look at, that was at the Austrian Grand Prix, Alfa Romeo ahead of Alpine. Quite surprising. Haas ahead of Williams. Can't quite believe Alfa Romeo ahead of Alpine. I wasn't expecting that. In terms of the order at the front, though, big gap from Mercedes to Red Bull to Mercedes, big gap from Mercedes to Ferrari, quite a big gap from Ferrari to McLaren, and then a little bit smaller of a gap to Alpha Tauri, and it just continues down until you reach very close to Alfa Romeo and Alpine, and then Haas and Williams. We have got quite a lot of R&D points at the moment, 1,076 to be exact. We have got a minor upgrade there we could do on the tyre wear, but I do want to get another one of these upgrades going, but actually we have two, so I can't do any more on the aero. I can do one on the chassis or the power unit, and this all requires spark plugs. It's only 158. Yeah, so we're going to go with the spark plugs minus 70%. That will be in before the Hungarian Grand Prix, which is after this one. And then there's two choice, cable assembly or heave dampers. Going to go with heave dampers to help us with tyre wear. That'll be in for after the British Grand Prix. Don't want to focus on durability too much. And the other thing is, of course, the facilities. 3.24 million at the moment. One thing I actually think would be important to work on is potentially the personnel. You know, especially not really for my teammate at the moment, Robert, you know, but also for like future teammates, that we can have a really good battle with them, and they can also be very competitive at the front and maybe winning championships. Gonna go with this driver simulator. We're also gonna, though, soon probably go for another upgrade on the chassis department, but that will require a lot of saving up. And then just a bit after that, we are gonna have to, we haven't got enough to do the contract renewal, but that expires on the 13th of December, so we should be alright there. Yes, I know, mate. You can keep telling me I don't have enough for it, but we should be fine. In terms of the next upgrade, I'll try and get another upgrade going, maybe, as I was saying, on the chassis department, in terms of the facilities. And then once we've done that, we need to be saving up for a teammate, because the Lando and Charles, 7.5 million. That's quite a chunk, so we do need to do some saving, but we're going to start heading through a bit. I know I don't. Marketing event. Minus 100 cash, plus 2,000. So they organise a charity event asking for the teams to make donations, small or large. I made the large donation. We need the acclaim. We really do need that acclaim. And that's us up to 12, because in the corporate, I wouldn't mind another lovely sponsor. Oh, now we can continue on. 10th, 12th.
Hey boss, I think we could better manage our time by organising some team activities. Head to the activities screen to see what we have available.
That would have been a good idea, Jeff. Really would have been. Before I forgot to do it, but anyway, doesn't matter. Another thing though, we actually got 400 R&D because that ERS fault last time. That has actually aided us to be able to go and get going with that upgrade. But here is your order then of R&D heading into the next Grand Prix. You can see at the moment it looks like Red Bull still comfortably ahead of Mercedes. Ferrari just a little bit ahead of Mercedes. I mean, from McLaren, sorry. Looks like McLaren might have caught up a bit. AlphaTauri dropped a bit away. They're pretty close to us. Aston Martin right on our backs. Alpine have jumped back ahead of Alfa Romeo, but Haas are remaining ahead of Williams. That seems to be pretty much everything before we get into some actual action with qualifying. I'm going to show you guys the chart for the Silverstone GP so you guys can sort of know where they are in relative to that. It's a bit easier to see on there than with the bars. But before we get into some actual action and the more interesting, juicy parts of the video, if you guys haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help the channel out. I can't make this content without those subscribers and those likes. But let's get into some lovely action. As usual now in these career mode videos, yep, you can see the changes from the last Grand Prix to this one. There aren't really many. Red Bull's lead has been reduced a bit. They've flattened out. Meanwhile, Mercedes have come up a little bit to reduce that deficit. It should be a bit closer between them. Ferrari have also flattened out. McLaren have jumped up to them. We could see a really close battle between those two this weekend as normal. AlphaTauri dropped further away from McLaren, with McLaren improving. They're just a little bit ahead of us, and then we pretty much neck and neck with Aston Martin. We haven't got many upgrades in this weekend, but Aston Martin have, and they've really caught up to us. Alpine and Alfa Romeo have just played switcheroo. The gap between them, absolutely nothing. It's going to just come down to the drivers out on track. And then Williams really flattened out, barely any improvements. They've improved as much as Haas, and there as a result, Haas stay just ahead of them. But we should have some good upgrades coming in for the Hungarian Grand Prix and the Spa, of course, the Belgian Grand Prix, with us having 1 major and 4 minor upgrades on the go at the moment. It's not too much for this week, and be quite a bit for the next one. And don't forget, of course, our rivalry against Sebastian Vettel continues. 4 races remaining on that one. And we have won 10 points. He's won 6. And I would also love to know why on earth, in this situation, my race suit has changed. I have absolutely no idea there. But what we are going to do is get into some lovely qualifying. Qualifying then at Silverstone. I was quite excited for the weekend, but sadly it's been a bit dampened for qualifying, as I'm sure you guys can see on the weather forecast. It is raining, and it will be heavy rain for a little while. Then we get some lighter rain, and then by the end, and by Q3, we should be in dry conditions. Definitely going to want to get out there quite quickly for a feeler pretty soon, but I think the fast laps will come as the track starts to dry out in Q1. The likes of Ricciardo starting to go out. We are going to go out on those wets. The Inter's a little bit slow at the moment, probably won't be there by the end of the session, but what we are going to do is we're going to get out on track and hopefully set a good lap on the wets. Now then, the first flying lap, and it does feel very, very slippery here in Q1. If you guys haven't already realised, there's a little bit of a glitch for this qualifying session as we go a bit too deep into there. and that is, of course, that our helmet seems to have disappeared. I sorted half of this big glitch I've had, but the other half, well, hasn't managed to be sorted. And I'm just racing with a balaclava, a bit like the old times, you know, when they wouldn't have as many safety features and you wouldn't be going off into tech pro barriers. You'd be saying hey to some hay bales, which aren't exactly the best way for stopping the car. But in terms of the tyres, it feels very slippery out on track at the moment. I think it's nearly Inter's weather, and a lot of the time that can be worse than sort of solid wet weather. You know, torrential rain is almost just as bad as borderline to Inter's when you're on the wets here. We're probably not going to see that quick of a lap to start this, you know. I'm just sort of trying to get around fighting as we take way too much to the inside line at Luffield there. That's not what I want to do. Not the quickest way around, but you don't really know what the quickest way around in these conditions are. You've got to take quite a wide line through these sweeps. I'm a bit nervous for cops. A lot of inside. Yes, there we go. That's pretty clean. Quite a big lift there, though, to manage to get the car around it in these slippery conditions. Hopefully, maybe we'll get some interesting results of qualifying because of the wet and really tiptoeing around Maggots and Beckett's there. Not that best. And you can see we're in the 1 minute 40s. Lewis Hamilton setting the fastest lap here. Not been too bad of a lap. I've just been finding where on earth we can push a little bit more. But I don't think I'm really going to go again. A little warning for exceeding track limits. I'll probably get a few of them over there. Definitely when it's in the wet, you get a lot of time. But pretty clean through this section. I'm using the oversteer to sort of send me through the next corner. But sadly there isn't one right there for that bit of oversteer. Over the line, 8th. Behind Mazepin and Latifi, not too bad. But the fast lap's going to be later on. So we're going to return to the pits now. Here is the, well, scores at the moment. After the first part of Q1, it's Lewis Hamilton, P1, Max Verstappen, P2. The Dutchman looking pretty good for P2, considering where his teammate is, but good start for the Brit, Hamilton. He needs that in the championship. Verstappen has got a bit of work to do. Of course, further down the order, you've got the likes of Bottas. Leclerc really doing well in P4, but if we look at the front three, it is reversed at the moment. If that stays it is, the gap between them is going to tighten up a bit, and we could see Verstappen do pretty well. Of course, Bottas P3 at the moment. He's one whole 1 second off Hamilton. You know, Verstappen's only 3/10. He's quite a way off as Bottas, but let's not forget, we're going to see the faster laps. These big boys go for the big laps in Q3 at the business end of things. Charles Leclerc looking pretty decent there in P4 with Norris P5 just behind him. Those two fairly close. And then Fernando Alonso up in P6. Really solid up there from him. Pierre Gasly P7. Not too bad. Sainz and Ricciardo there struggling a teeny bit. Quite a bit off their teammate. And then, of course, Vettel. Tsunoda. Antonio Giovinazzi very high there. That's P13, but Tsunoda running well. So that's, and then his teammate Kimi Raikkonen in P14, Ocon struggling in 15th, and Lance Stroll just below me in 16th. I mean, that's probably because he was low focus, you know, it does affect you in the race and quality in terms of your position. And that is not that competitive of a lap. He's got a lot of work to do when he goes back out again for his second run. My teammate Schwartzman, P17, solid work there. Hopefully he can maybe try and get out of Q1. That'll be fantastic with his Russell 18th, then you've got Schumacher, ourselves P20, Mazepin 21st, and Latifi 22nd, but it all's going to come down to this now. Perez, there he is, Perez, yes. Bit confused there because Perez wasn't at the top and he wasn't at the bottom, but he's gone and set a lap in between, and he is now up into the top two, but we've got a lot of work to do here. And certainly, a lot of cars are going to have to go out. Definitely, Kimi Raikkonen down will have to go out again. Probably Antonio Giovinazzi. But it'll be interesting to see how many cars do go out again. I don't think the conditions are going to improve that much. I don't think the wet tyres are going to be that much slower. So I don't think we're going to see loads and loads of drivers going out again. But we might see a few. We might see a few going out again who are on the wets, you know, who are pretty safe position, but it is going to be the Inters for us when we go out again, and we need to put in a decent lap But that is, of course, the order at the moment. We're going to be going out on the intermediates. We're going to be, hopefully, putting a decent lap in. Of course, the intermediates versus the wets at the moment. Yeah, the wets are a little bit quicker, but not when we are out on track going for a flyer. Now then, time for the lovely flyer. We are P20, but that's just because the first lap I went for a bit of a finder, because this is when we're going to get the faster laps. When the track is a little bit drier, when we're on the faster intermediates, and when you can really go and push for something. We've got an Alfa Romeo really right on our backs here. Hopefully we can set a decent lap. We need to set a decent lap. In terms of the cars going out, Kidoki, it looks like sort of top 8 is staying in. I'm probably about top 6, 7, don't know. But that will be interesting. We're already going a little bit quicker this lap. We'll need to continue that trend throughout the lap because there's a lot of improving we need to do. Meanwhile, everyone else is going to be improving, but there's a lot more grip out on track compared to before. Still very slippery, but a lot more grip, and our exit through there is very tasty. And the Alfa Romeo behind us is dropping back a little bit at the moment. Lovefield always an interesting corner though, quite difficult. As we go way too deep into it, that's not going to help us, and that's cost us a lot of time. And then oversteer on the exit just to rub it in. Very frustrating there. Of course, Schumacher in front in the order he's going in. Great to see maybe him getting out of quali. That'd be really interesting. Russell would want to. And his home race, we get another one for exceeding track limits there at Cobbs. Probably taking a bit too much of the runoff so that we could go and take a lot more speed in, and then of course more on the exit. Pretty clean through Magnus and Beckett. It's a little bit awkward on there on the exit. It'll be interesting to see how many drivers improve at the moment. Those who are in the pit should be pretty comfortable. In fact, I'm not really sure why the McLaren and the Ferrari have come out, but we are actually going an awful lot quicker here. In fact, 2.7 tenths as I went on to the runoff here, but slow down a bit so I don't get a track limit warning. We've already had a few. We're actually going a lot quicker than I thought. The conditions are a lot better as Danny Rick into the 1 minute 39.8. Maybe that's why we're going again. We go P10 with a semi-mediocre lap. And already Giovinazzi up into P8. Leclerc down to P12. Sainz has gone quickest. I'm a little bit worried for those who haven't gone again. I do believe McLaren and Norris didn't go again. Not sure. Alonso, I might be wrong. But Schumacher up to P15. Come on, Mick, because we're going to go again here. We're going a little bit quicker in the first sector. Where we lost the time was really at Lovefield, so we'll have to improve that this lap and maybe a bit at Maggots and Beckett. But if we can go better here, we might as well just to get ourselves away from this, because at the moment the drop zone is right there. But I don't think all the AI are going to be going for another flyer now. But wow, yes, I think there might be a bit of surprising order after this. I mean, Giovinazzi ahead of an Alfa. In the Alfa Romeo ahead of the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas there. Very interesting as we, as usual, take a lot of cops, and that's another warning. Sorry about that, guys. Don't too many warnings. I'm Balaclava boy today, you know. Balaclava boy. Doing a bit round here, but absolutely mostly smooth on the exit there. Don't dip too much into the graph. And that's actually, wait, that's a purple Sector 2. Very tasty. We might actually have to take a new engine component just before the race. But, you know, that's not going to cause a penalty because we have spare ones of that. And is it going to be the same? Yep. Yep. I'm good at getting exceeding track limits warnings around here at Silverstone. And it's an unnecessary lap because we are now safe in quali. But we might as well finish it because we're going a lot quicker. It's time to show some pace on these inters. There you go. A really decent lap to finish it off. Well then, your order, and it looks a little bit jumbled up here. Carlos Sainz, quickest in his Ferrari by a whole 5 tenths. He went out again on the intermediate, so did Danny Rick, who is in the McLaren. His lap of 1 minute 39.8, and he went out pretty early compared to others. We were P3 after that improved lap, so it's a fantastic pace now in the wet on those intermediates. Certainly doing a lot better on the inters than the wets, with Lewis Hamilton P4, Tsunoda P5, Perez P6. The two Red Bulls didn't go out again off their wets. Neither did Hamilton. Tsunoda did. Tsunoda's ahead of his teammate, who also went out again on the intermediates. Pierre Gasly P8, Tsunoda in front. Really great from the Japaneseman. So pretty interesting there. not that many drivers opted for the wits, as the two Aston Martins are safely through P9 and 10, despite Lance Stroll struggling at the start of it. He excels at the end of Q2 to get through just behind his teammate. Esteban Ocon P11 with our teammate P12. Really happy with that, to see my teammate through for the first time this season through to Q2. That's got a nice ring to it. Then we got Giovinazzi, Bottas and Leclerc just gave through. I mean, that saved some inters, but a little bit too close, especially for Charles Leclerc. Wasn't expecting that. And then your big story is just hidden a little bit below. Mick Schumacher is through, which means that we have lost Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso. George Russell, Kimi Raikkonen and Nikita Mazepin. No real surprises with losing the two Williams and Raikkonen and Mazepin, but Schumacher through. We've lost two Brits, George Russell and Lando Norris. You know, Norris and Alonso caught out on the mediums. Kimi Raikkonen, despite those two being behind him, still couldn't make it through. But those two fabulous drivers caught out on the wet tyre compound, didn't go again, which I probably would have done in their position, and they've been knocked out in Q1, so they've got a lot of work to do tomorrow. You know, Alonso and Norris, they're going to have quite a bit of fighting up the grid, and they're not going to have like a one-stop advantage or anything around here, because you don't get that. And also, we're not going to be qualifying on slicks in Q2. Well, that is certainly a dramatic Q1. Alonso and Norris knocked out, Schumacher through. I don't know what to say. Absolute madness, but you got to love it. There you go. Carlos Sainz, quickest. It's all going to change into the next session. It's going to hopefully be a very interesting rest of qualifying, but you've lost Russell, Raikkonen, Norris, Alonso, Mazepin and Latifi. Hopefully we continue with a bit of madness later on in Q2. Q2 then, and it is still raining, but it is not heavy rain, so it's definitely still going to be those inters conditions that we had at the end of Q1. And what a Q1 it was. We have lost Alonso and Norris, and that really does spice things up in this wet track, because of course we don't have them, and we've also got a little bit of a jumbled up order. You know, coming through my teammate Robert Schwartzman and Mick Schumacher in the house and Giovinazzi. Those drivers, you know, maybe at the end of the session might want to just go out on the sauce and roll the dice. They're not going to be that quick, especially Schumacher, but we're going to need to get out there, put a decent lap in on the intermediates. Well, in the second quali session at Silverstone, this time our first lap will be on the intermediates. And it's going to be interesting to see, you know, the order. I don't think there'll be too many surprises this time, because we're not going to be maybe switching on to the slicks at the end of it, which would really spice things up. You've got to like that. But we probably won't be getting onto slicks by the end of the Grand Prix. So, well, qualifying for the Grand Prix. I think it will just be a bit of a sailing competition in Q2. What a pun there. As Carlos Sainz goes quickest into the 1:39's. Nice lap from him. Probably going to need to go out again later. It's not been too shabby at the start of the lap, but we might need to go out again later, of course, because there isn't that long. You know, I know there isn't that long in the session for the weather to change, but we've seen it really just change. It could be drier later on as Lewis Hamilton goes quickest here. He doesn't need setting fastest laps, none of them do, but Verstappen then goes into the 1:37's. 1:37.995 as we're heading towards Cops. This is really how you tell what the weather's like at Silverstone. And actually, I could carry a bit more speed through there this lap, so definitely a drying track. Tell you where, of course, not a problem around here often, and certainly not a problem on a cold track with lovely intermediates when you can't be that aggressive with them, as we're a little bit shaky through Maggots and Beckett's, but pretty comfortably out that section, out of Church. Heading down here, still without a race helmet. I'll see if that will fix for the race or not. Tell me in the comments below, guys, if you want me to try to fix it or not. Unless it might just fix normally as we take that through there. Don't take too much corner cutting so that we don't get in trouble there. And we're heading through the final two corners. Just got to keep it clean. Always on edge in the wet, but that's what you need to be. P9, ahead of Schumacher, below the Aston Martins. I know we can do better than that, and we'll need to do better, because the Aston Martins might struggle to get out of qualifying with Giovinazzi in P10 behind us. We're going to go again, as I'm sure you see what we're doing right now, because we need to try and go for another quicker banker as we're a bit cleaner out of this section to the Wellington straight. Quite a few cars have put their laps in. You've got the Ferraris are back in, a Haas, a Mercedes. Lovely to see so many different cars out on track and so many different cars in Q2 this time. Great to see a Haas in Q2. Quite rare, but good to see it. Schumacher's been putting in some great performances recently. He's a bit shaky out of left field, but he's been putting some really great performances in recently, and I think he really deserves to be getting towards the business end of things. That's what I definitely call it. 3 cops don't get a warning this time for taking a lot of the extra track on the exit, as I like to do. Take a lot of curves. This is probably why my CE is very worn, but as we head through Maggots and Beckett's, it's a better lap. Not by a lot, but as you can see, we're going quicker than Vettel by something like a tenth and a bit. So that's how close it is at the moment. Still an important lap. We don't take run off there, and that's massively helped us this lap make that 7 tenths, 8 tenths. This should definitely elevate us up the order. Not that many cars left out on the track. My teammates out on track, and we're going to cross the line. P7 and a purple sector 3. Lovely through that section behind the Ferraris, but ahead of Yuki Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon. We're going to return to the pits. Not too shabby at all there. Really solid lap. Whether we'll have to go out again or not, probably, because we're P7, but pretty comfortable. Well then, here is your order ourselves. Drop down to P9 at the moment. Yuki Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon behind. Yes, Esteban Ocon is 5 tenths behind, but with an improving track. We saw it in Q1. We'll have to go out again. Bottas, P1 at the moment with Perez and then Verstappen and then Hamilton. So Red Bull looking pretty close. Hamilton 3 tenths off Verstappen, who's 6 tenths off Bottas. Hamilton really great in Q1, now struggling a lot in Q2. Danny Rick, head of Pierre Gasly, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz there. Really great work from the only McLaren driver in Q2. Leclerc leads his teammate Sainz by 3 tenths. We're just 2 tenths off Carlos in P9. Then you've got Yuki Tsunoda just behind us. He is currently starting P10. Then you've got Esteban Ocon, Sebastian Vettel. My teammate Robert Schwartzman's gone P13. Lovely to see. Fantastic work from him. And then, of course, you know, hopefully he can go and put another good lap in later and maybe stay there. And then Lance Stroll, Antonio Giovinazzi and Schumacher. The Inters, are they still? Yep, still better, apparently, than the slick tyres. Certainly beginning towards the slicks, but with not long left in this session. Yeah, it doesn't look that rainy, but I still think it is time for the Inters. We're going to get a fresh set on, I think. I think we do need to go out again. We're going to go out again. Not long left in this session. Hopefully, we'll be able to go better, or no one else is going to go better. One of those two would help us out a lot. But yeah, it's going to be like 16 minutes until it stops raining, so we will have a dry Q3 if we can get there. That's the important thing. We're just waiting to see when the other drivers are going to go out, and we're sort of going to go out then. But I am waiting a little bit. I mean, you just want to see sort of when they're going to go out. I'm tempted to go out with them for this one, to be in a bit around them, just so we get the right conditions, because they generally go out a decent time so that you're not risking it, but not too late. And there we go. I think that's, yep, Mick Schumacher's coming out. We're going to get out on track for a lap. Well, line Q2. Second set of lovely green intermediate tyres. I always think the Inters look nice. Look quite good in our car too, I have to say. I'm now deciding what styling we should have for the car. In terms of the cars going out, both Ferraris out. But then from Danny Rick and above, no one has opted to get on track. Actually, Pierre Gasly and above, sorry. So P6 and above aren't going out. I think they should be safe at the moment as we begin our lap, and it's not the best start to it at all here. It's been a bit sloppy, but despite locking up into there, we don't lose too much more time. We're going to have to really push for the rest of this lap. Here we go. A little bit through there. Take a chunk of that. Oh, I've fluffed up here. I don't know what to say. What have I done there? I don't know why I viciously took the curb. That's front wing damage. Front wing damage. We're going to have to return to the pits. Just hope that no one else goes much quicker at the moment, because there's nothing we can do. That's totally my fault. Front wing damage. I think Jeff said we had damage earlier. We certainly did in Q1, but Jeff, we certainly need some damage replacing now, because that is a broken front wing. That's us out of this session. Hopefully, though, no one else goes quicker. They're starting the laps now, and I've just got my fingers crossed we will be safe in this session. We are safe in the session, as you can see. We are P9. And there is your 5 drivers who've been knocked out. But Valtteri Bottas, the quickest, from Perez Verstappen. And then Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Danny Rick, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz, and then ourselves. We are down in P9. So despite our spin and broken front wing, no one else managed to improve in the conditions. And we get through to Q3. Sadly, we have lost Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. Really great to see him in P11 ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who's in a faster car. Then you've got Antonio Giovinazzi, solid P13. My teammate Schwartzman down to P14. Then you've got Stroll and Schumacher. Disappointing for Stroll, but good for my teammate there. You know, only dropped down 1 position. But Stroll, been affected by his lack of focus again. It's on and off. Because of that, down in P15. Good to see Alpine ahead of Aston Martin. Good to see my teammate in a good position. Mick Schumacher, of course, last. No real surprise there with him being in a Haas. But in terms of your order then, getting through, Yuki Tsunoda, really great work from him. Valtteri Bottas up front. We're going to be able to get into Q3. We've got both Alpha Tauris in it, and that is going to make it spicy. Q3 then, the third part of qualifying, and as you can see, it's slicks time. Finally, we have made it this far. Carlos Sainz heading out on the slicks, the red mark softs. It is still a little bit drizzly, a little bit wet, but we are going to get out there and hopefully have a good start to the final part of quali. We continue on then with our lovely balaclava and no helmet scheme at the moment, not even a mod, a glitch. But we are in Q3 on the softs. I'm happy to be on the softs. It's still a little bit slippery, I think, you know. Haven't really tested out too much yet. Haven't really had a chance. But it's going to be a little bit slippery. But a few little dots of rain. Definitely slicks conditions. And hopefully we can put in something decent. We had pace in free practice on the slicks. And into the first braking zone of the lap. A little knock up in. Decent out. Heading quite nicely. You've got 2 Ferraris pretty close together. The Mercedes and the Red Bulls, the teammates, they're separating themselves as Carlos Sainz goes quickest and Leclerc doesn't top him. The Spaniard ahead of his teammate for provisional pole. There's your first one, 29-1 in the first sector. Pretty decent start to the lap, and your first Red Bull is coming up to cross the timing line. And that is Sergio Perez. Checo with a 1:32.3 goes quickest. That's provisional pole for him. Counts to the AlphaTauri really topping him as we take a lot on the exit of cops there. And now we're going to get the first Mercedes to cross the line. And Lewis Hamilton goes quickest on provisional pole. And that is the Brit. We can have a McLaren, then a Red Bull. And we, at the moment, are going to be trying to beat Tsunoda's time, 1:34, as Leclerc is P6 at the moment. Not the best from him, considering some recent fantastic quality results coming towards the end of the lap. It's been a mediocre start. It's not been too bad, actually. Could put us pretty nicely, and that's Max Verstappen who goes quickest in the battle for pole position here. Of course, it won't decide it on this lap, but it certainly will make a difference, and that's P4 for us. Very, very nice. The Mercedes now going to push us down into P5. But P4, Ricardo, well, P4 we were, Ricardo's P4, fantastic work from the McLaren. And then we got Perez P6. with Gasly P7. You know, Gasly looking pretty tasty there, ahead of the Ferraris, and Perez certainly struggling for his car. But what we are going to do here, because there isn't that long in Q3, we want to get back to the pit so we can get a new set of softs on and hopefully put something in to consolidate our position. Well, you get a very quick update here. You don't get long because there's only 5 minutes left in the session. Verstappen on provisional pole. It's very close there, though, for him, between himself and Valtteri Bottas, with Hamilton a whopping 8 tenths behind Verstappen and Bottas, 1-2 in the championship. Verstappen will be looking to claw back in the gap. Hamilton, though, P3, quite a bit off the pace. He's got a lot of work to do here in quali if he wants a great result for the British Grand Prix. Then we've got Danny Rick ourselves. Checo Perez all the way down in P6, struggling with Pierre Gasly ahead of the 2 Ferraris, and then Yuki Tsunoda firmly last at the moment, whole seconds off the pace, but really great to see him in Q3. Carlos ahead of Charles. Nice to see a little bit of a mix-up in that order with Gasly P7. Good work from the AlphaTauri driver. And we are going to have to get out again. No rain at all now. Completely dry. And hopefully we'll be able to go and consolidate our P5. That'd be fantastic. But I don't know if we're going to have the pace, because the AI are going to be blisteringly quick probably at this point in quali. But let's get out there once again. Valtteri Bottas behind us then for the final lap in Q3. Sat right there. We'll let him through. We'll also, I think, let the Ferrari through in a second. Don't want to interfere. There you go, Carlos. You want to put a good lap in for us. Now AlphaTauri behind, but we've got a nice little pocket of space now to put in, hopefully, a consolidating lap time. Still quite a bit left in this one. Don't know whether we'll be able to do 2 laps. We might be able to. Hopefully we will, because I might want to improve again. But immediately you can see that actually the track clearly wasn't dry last lap. It's a bit drier this lap, but we're certainly not doing that fantastically through the first sector here. Not gaining enough time as we need to. Hamilton 28.9 in the first sector, and we are actually 4 tenths quicker. We're going pretty nicely at the start of this one. He's on the softs, but that's his old lap time. Take it too tight through the field, that's probably cost us 2 tenths. I'm being very sloppy at the moment. We need to put something decent in. But the sun has started to come out for us here in Silverstone. Nice to have a little bit of sunshine. Lovely to have, you know, brightening up a little bit, hopefully. That is for us, and we're going to get the first cars finishing their lap. And I do believe that's Danny Rick in the McLaren to finish his lap as we messed up a bit through Maggots and Beckett's. He goes 1 minute 28.8. 1 minute 28.7 for Charles Leclerc. Perez goes quicker with 1 minute 28.1. Hamilton goes in the 1 minute 28.1s. This is not great for us. Verstappen, 1 minute 27.8. On provisional pole, the order all over the place. Tsunoda P10 at the moment. As Sainz goes quicker than Leclerc, we're going to finish our lap, but it's disappointing one. Well, I've done better laps than that. That's us P10. Sadly, we couldn't get another one in. As Verstappen is on pole there, by 1/10 from Valtteri Bottas, and then Lewis Hamilton P3 with Checo Perez P4. Red Bull have quite a chunky advantage here. Then you got Sainz, Leclerc, and Ricciardo. The Ferraris managed to get back ahead of the McLarens. Well, the only McLaren, and then you got Gasly and Tsunoda. We're about just under a second off Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda just under a second off Pierre Gasly. Not the best lap for us. Nice to see Tsunoda in Q3, but of course with our grid penalty we can have work to do in the race tomorrow. But there you go. The front 2 in the Drivers' Championship have been flipped. Hamilton off the pace a bit. He's close with Sergio Perez. Red Bull have the advantage at the moment, and it certainly looks like the battle between Verstappen and Bottas is being spiced up. Meanwhile, for once, Sainz leads Leclerc with Danny Rick down to P7. A promising qualifying at times, but not to be really in the end for him. Ferrari have a massive advantage with Lando Norris not making out of Q3, but that is your order. It's going to be a spicy race tomorrow. Alonso and Norris from the back, and then Verstappen versus Bottas, Hamilton and Perez at the front, and Ferrari want to extend their lead on McLaren. If you guys have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. But thank you a lot for watching, and have a great day, and then join me for the Silverstone Grand Prix sometime soon.